Hey, this is Yuri Lowenthal. I play Peter Parker in Spider-Man and PS4 Spider-Man, and when I'm not swinging around the city, saving it from crime, I'm listening to the Raw Dogs podcast. They talk about video games and beer, two things that I like very much. So, check them out.
No one liked it, actually.
Martin, what is your opinion on Mario with letters?
I think that Mario should stick to what he knows, and that's platforming. Bad licensing deals means you might have to make shitty educational games, but what would I know, I'm a cat. Very well put, Martin. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Raw Dogs. This is probably episode number 65, but this is going to be Patreon exclusive for a while, so it might not be for the rest of the people. But before we move forward, Hair the Dogcast is a proud member of the HyperX Podcast Network. For more information, check out podcast.hyperx.com. My name is Brad, and today we are talking about the Super Nintendo. You guys ever heard of this?
Once. I saw one once. Like right now, it's right in front of me. It's got purple buttons and stuff. It's super cool.
And a nice smoky yellow to it. Yes, but I'm Brad. Your name is?
I'm Nate. I'm here to talk about how awesome Super Nintendo is.
And I'm Dominic, and I'm also here touching all the reset buttons.
These buttons here. We are doing the Super Nintendo today because I asked Nate what his three favorite consoles were, and he said Game Boy, and I said, nope, not allowed. And then he said Super Nintendo, so I said, perfect, we'll talk about that.
Yeah. Super Nintendo is nostalgia. It's when I lived in my childhood house with my parents, and I had my room in the attic, which was fantastic. And then we had a room with blue shag carpet.
Wow.
And carpeted walls, but not blue.
Do you vacuum the walls then? Is that how you clean shag walls? Shag carpet walls?
That is what we did.
This was your room.
No, I lived in the attic. I was the attic child. This was just like
like flowers in the attic? Nate in the attic or something?
Yeah, realistically, I had a lean-to built into the attic that was my room. It was about probably 15 by 10 with anywhere from 2 foot to 6 foot ceiling on either side, and it was great. It was probably my favorite room of all time. It was like super cozy. It's great. And then, but back to the blue shag carpet, and we played everything in there. And I just remember rocking with the Super Nintendo in that blue shag carpet walled room. Man, it was wild.
Now, did you move into this house?
No, this is the first house I was living in, my first childhood home in downtown.
Conceived in it?
Bodunk, yeah, maybe. It is possible.
It was not a sex attic before you moved in there is what I'm asking.
Cannot confirm or deny.
If people knew what happened in all of the rooms that in their current house they're living in, they might be upset.
Shag carpet's a red flag for me when it comes to sex dungeons or attics.
Super popular.
It's a red flag, but it's a blue carpet.
Yeah. It was great. I miss it so much.
I had a Super Nintendo and a Sega Genesis. I was a fortunate child. I think it's because probably my brother and I wouldn't shut up about these consoles until we were given both of them. So thank you, parents, for putting up with us. This one is not the console. I'm holding one in my hands here if you're listening. This is not the one that we had when we were young, but this is one that an old roommate's girlfriend just said, hey, I have an extra Super Nintendo. Do you want it? And I said, yes. And it also came with Final Fantasy III and Mystic Quest, which it's a pretty big gift. But yeah, but we had a Super Nintendo growing up, and I loved it. I do think this is the superior gaming system. The Genesis has a lot of really good things, but I prefer the old SNES, as they say. But Dom, how about you?
I never owned one, but I shared like a backyard with one of the neighborhood kids. There's like a wall that separated our backyards. So I would just hop over and we would play some Super Nintendo. And then when the parents went to bed, we would stay up and watch South Park also.
Oh, yeah.
So
that's early South Park then, too.
Yeah.
The good stuff. They're all good.
Yeah. So that's kind of like what I remember about playing the Super Nintendo.
The Super Nintendo is the 15th best-selling game console of all time. Kind of would have thought it to be higher,
yeah.
but it is the third highest-selling Nintendo home console. Yeah, the Super Nintendo sold 49.1 million units overall. It's part of the fourth generation of games. So this is a 16-bit console. And other fourth-generation consoles would be the Sega Genesis, also known as the Sega Mega Drive, the TurboGrafx 16, also known as the PC Engine, and some other shit, which wasn't big enough for me to want to put down, but they were important if you're into that kind of thing. The Super Nintendo had 1,757 games. We'll talk about games later. The Super Nintendo was always very impressive to me. I remember seeing it for the first time at my buddy David Bowe's house, and I just remember because we played Mega Man on the NES, and I thought that was cool. And I saw Mega Man X, and it was just like Dragon Ball Z levels of cool. It was anime, it was edgy, the music was great, to be expected from Mega Man at the time at least. And yeah, I remember being blown away. I don't remember if we had the Genesis first or the Super Nintendo first. I think it was probably the Super Nintendo. My parents would have played it safe at that time. And since we were Nintendo owners, they probably would have just gone right ahead and did the same thing there. But yeah, the Nintendo had dominated the home console scene since its release. There were other people trying to get in on that, but with NEC Home Electronics launching the PC Engine and Sega with the Mega Drive, Nintendo wasn't really in a hurry to launch a new system. But once they started seeing sales numbers slip towards Sega, they decided it was time to make something happen. They changed their tune. September 9th, 1987. This is 11 months before I was born. Interesting to think. Nintendo president at the time, Hiroshi Yamauchi, revealed the development of the Super Famicom in the newspaper Kyoto Shimbun. And then, August... August 30th, 1989, in an interview with Touch Magazine, he announced the development of Super Mario Bros. 4 and Dragon Quest VI and 3 other original games. He projected sales of 3 million units of the next console, and potentially he announced this ahead of time just to stall people from shopping for the PC Engine. Get ahead of that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, now they predict the systems out like, PlayStation 5 just came out, and they're probably already announcing PlayStation 6, I'd assume.
Like Bethesda. We are announcing Elder Scrolls 6.
Yep.
What's going to happen? We have a logo.
Yeah, right. Like, we're doing it, but that's all we know right now.
I mean, it was exciting back then when a new console gets announced, but if I found out today that PlayStation is making PlayStation 6, I would not be excited. Like, it's fine. We know it's coming, though. It's a given at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, Super Nintendo was out before we had one, before I had memories, realistically. My brother demanded one when he was a child, and it was a good move. It was a strong power move. And I compare it to his excitement to the liking of like when I was asking for a PlayStation or a N64 and just begging for it. And my parents were like, no, we bought your brother a Super Nintendo, and it was horrible.
Yep. Thank God that consumerism got us Christmas, because Christmas, I think, got a lot of kids those big presents. They just asked for them all year, and they're like, all right, you get it this time. And you ask for video games for your Sega, and they get you columns instead of Sonic the Hedgehog, but you pretend you like it because you don't want to make your parents sad.
Wait, what?
I got columns instead of Sonic one time, and it was a major bummer.
Oh, I was talking about the pretending. I was a rude little kid. That's why I was kept in the attic.
Yeah, I think I played columns once. It seemed fine. The Super Nintendo launched in Japan November 21st, 1990, and then in North America, August 23rd, 1991. At the time, it sold for 25,000 yen, or $200 USD, and the initial shipment of 300,000 units sold immediately. And this actually caused such a disturbance in Japan socially that the government stepped in and said, please release consoles on the weekends. People were like desperate to get the games and like missing work. And they said, you can't. They didn't say you can't, but they're like, please don't do this again, which is kind of funny. The government having to step in.
That is awesome. I did not. I also didn't realize it was $200 in 1991, you said?
Yeah,
90, I think.
1990 for Japan and then 1991 for America. And yeah, it was $200 adjusted, like not for inflation, but like yen to America. It was like $200 for both places at the time.
But I wonder how much money that is like today. Like $200 seems pricey.
The North American release was $200, adjusted for inflation today. It's $380.
All right, so
At least I think that was maybe 2020 numbers, so it's probably much higher now.
Yeah.
With our lovable inflation we are all going through.
wow.
Yeah. Please, we as the government say, don't do this.
What product nowadays has the same disruptive power as what Super Nintendo did? I can't think of anything offhand.
I mean, video game console releases are probably the biggest media release that happens these days. People like Spider-Man movies and Avengers movies, but that's not the same thing. Oh, there's a lot of grounds in that coffee.
It's
Sorry.
all good.
What? Yeah. Beanie Babies? Was this just a 90s thing where people went nuts about buying stuff?
I mean, people were going crazy about buying stuff in the 2000s, and they still do today, but it's not the same anymore where people would be lining up to buy these things because,
You can get it online now.
yep, now you just have bots go online and spam Best Buy 1,000 times a microsecond so you can get all of the systems, and that way Billy doesn't get it down the street, but Billy can buy it for an extra $300 from Timmy. Those bastards.
Fucking Timmy.
Yeah.
That son of a bitch.
And the North American release, we had 1 million units sold at launch. 3.4 million units were sold by the end of 1991. North American launch titles. Pretty solid lineup here. Pack-in title, Super Mario World.
Good.
That's just the gold.
Great.
Yep, that is the system seller. It's always, I mean, what if they didn't include it?
Oh,
People would probably still buy it. But
Because they didn't include Mario 64 with the 64 because they said, no, this people will buy regardless. It's interesting. And Sega Genesis had launched with Altered Beast. And that was because they were like, it looks like the arcade. It looks so good, but it's also Altered Beast, which I think is fine. But I don't think it's a system-defining game by any stretch of the imagination.
it's not Super Mario World. That is quite possibly one of the just quintessential games of like video games
Of
to
all
me.
time.
Yeah, like it is so good.
It might be the best 2D Mario.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
That discussion could be had. And so that was the pack-in. We also had F-Zero, which F-Zero, I've never played a lot of those games, but I know that this is showing off the power of the Super Nintendo.
Right.
It kind of illustrated what Mode 7 graphics could do. And I mean, it did what Genesis don't, is I think the famous saying.
Yeah, I never played F-Zero. The only thing I know about it is I played NES and Smash Brothers, but that's it.
Pilot Wings, never played that game, but sure. Gradius 3.
That is a personal favorite of mine. I'm pretty sure we played that last night.
We did.
Yeah, I did poorly because I didn't remember the strategy, so I died almost immediately.
was that the shooty one?
Yeah, the shooty
Yeah.
with the slow spaceship, and then I forgot to speed up, and I got the super weapon and immediately died. But yeah, I love that game so much that I got it as a birthday present when I was 17, I think.
Yeah.
So like way past Super Nintendo, and I totally like got it from a friend who was again friend when I was living in my first starter home with my parents, and yeah, he got it for me when I was 17. I fucking busted out that Super Nintendo. We plugged it in, played for hours. It's great. It's so great.
Multiplayer games are fun. Even if that was just a one at a time multiplayer game, but still cool.
Still, you gotta wait your turn.
And then also SimCity, which is a pretty cool launch title. I mean, that's bringing in a lot of people that weren't maybe, playing these shooters or platformers. SimCity was a mature game for mature gamers.
For sure.
And in Japan, they had the Super Famicom, the family computer. It wasn't the Super Nintendo. It looked a little different, but one of the noticeable differences is on their controllers. They had yellow, blue, green, and red buttons. For America, though, they didn't want it to look like a toy. They wanted this to look sexy. So that is why we don't have the like multicolored controller buttons. Yeah. Ours is a little more sleek.
That's weird. I find that weird.
Well, trying to understand Americans is kind of bizarre in itself.
Yeah, I agree. Cultural differences is they're there, and even if you can group Americans as one cohesive unit, that's just a tough breakdown right there.
And also, the Nintendo Entertainment System, that nice and flat box. The reason this has these nice little like angular boxiness to it is to dissuade people who are setting their coffee mugs on their Nintendo and their like glasses of water. They made it this way to make it not as appealing as a big old box to set things on. So,
Wow, they really went the other way later with the GameCube.
yeah.
Just full on, we're just cube. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, with a circle on top to make it look like a coaster.
Yep, exactly. Well, it doubles, right? It's a multi-use thing there. I did not know that they did that, but clever. They really read Americans on that one because I definitely want to set drinks on my expensive electronics.
Yeah. I hate watching celebrities carry their laptops like willy-nilly.
Laptop tragedies. I've had a few, and I hate it.
The console war was going on at this point. The Mega Drive actually released a week before Super Mario Bros. 3 for the Nintendo, so they kind of botched their release a little bit. Nintendo managed to keep a lot of third-party developers, including Capcom, Square, Koei, and Enix. Sega did manage to lure over some developers to also work with them, with Acclaim, Konami, Tecmo, and Taito. Other developers did jump ship as well. Nintendo is kind of famously hard to play with if you want to make games with them. They want to approve of everything, control everything, and also they make you pay a lot of money to get cartridges, and then you have to like sales. They get money for that too, and yeah, this is a bad sign of things to come for Nintendo. They were fine here still, but eventually the next console generation, they kind of botched it there, where they had something incredibly difficult to develop for, and they made you pay a lot of money to not have fun developing for it.
Yeah, it's a tough call. It's definitely the Asian business style is more of a control and know what's going on thing, and the U.S. we're a little more fast and loose about everything.
Yeah, Sonic the Hedgehog would fuck anyone, dude.
And he has.
Yeah,
and he
right.
has.
Poor Tails.
The Mega Drive was renamed the Genesis for North America. Sega was actively defining itself as the cool console. We are edgy. We have games for adults. We are sexy. We like big guns. And of course, the famous advertising Sega does what Nintendo don't, which is I like. I think that's pretty funny.
I can hear what's the like Sega? Is that the thing? Or
and then there's also Sega.
Yeah, that's all I remember about Sega Genesis. I was a Super Nintendo guy. Like,
Yeah.
my cousin got a Sega, and I was like, loser.
And that's the way it worked on playgrounds at the time. If some other kid had a Sega and you had the Super Nintendo or vice versa, it was hard to overcome that hurdle. You can't be friends with that person.
Oh, no, not at all.
I luckily, with my friend who had the Super Nintendo, we would also go over there and his mom would rent a Sega Saturn just so that we could play Sonic. So we got best of both worlds, but he definitely owned the Super Nintendo.
What Sonic were you playing on Sega Saturn?
I think it was just the bare bones, if I'm not mistaken.
You mean Sega Genesis?
Maybe, yeah. I'm thinking of a different console, aren't I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, there was probably just some real garbage Sonic on Sega Saturn. We'll talk about that tomorrow, though. And part 2 of Sega's strategy was securing athletes for their naming rights to the games, such classics as Pat Riley's basketball, whatever that guy's fishing game we saw, and can you just imagine a bunch of like dads just sitting in the store like, does Brad really want this Super Nintendo? Because I can get it for him if I can play
Bassmaster 2090.
Riley Hawk's, not Riley Hawk, Ted Riley's Fishing Pro.
I just imagine like my dad watching my brother and I play this fishing game and being like, guys, I like fishing and we can do this for real. And then just being like, Dad, that's lame. Like, why would we? No.
I have to touch a worm with my fingers?
Yeah, exactly. Like, why would we do that when we can just do it here?
Yeah.
And the carpet shag and blue anyways. So we're good.
I can sleep on the wall right now. It's that comfortable.
Yeah, right? My brother will just whip me against the wall. I won't get hurt and I won't get wet at all. It's fantastic.
Yeah, no water here. And Michael Jackson's Moonwalker was another one where they got the naming rights, which was a big deal. 1 year after the release, the Super Nintendo drops price to $149 to compete with Sega. Sega just says, well, fuck you, we're going down to $129. And I love doing things in response to companies like that. Sega is at every corner just trying to like flick off Super Nintendo, which is kind of funny.
Right.
And to Super Nintendo's credit, they didn't do any sassy advertisements back. They just kind of said, okay, well, we'll just keep making games. Sonic is just tapping his toe like, fuck you, though.
I mean, it's still happening today, even. Really, with the whole Xbox, PlayStation announcement, where they were like, who's going to be the first to announce it? We all knew that the other one was just going to match whatever it was anyway. So
yeah,
who wants to set the tone and the price?
A console generation can be defined by those announcements, which was really discovered in the 5th generation. But yeah, if you have a press conference or an E3 event and you say the wrong thing, you can destroy all of that money and all of that work, and it'll be a hurdle to overcome for years.
Yeah, and PlayStation's really good at that. They've done it several times.
Well, also Microsoft has done it, though, too. Because Microsoft tried to come out and say, you don't own your games, and you can't resell them, and it's always online, and fuck you. And then Sony did that. This is how I share games with my friends. And there was a video of one of them handing it to the other. And they were just giggling off, like in the closet they were doing that or whatever.
Yeah, they're like, this advertisement's going to be rough. We just need 2 guys exchanging a video game. And it's going to be the biggest slap in the face. And it's going to be great. And fuck those guys.
And I think that's why E3 is canceled this year. Why would anyone take that risk when they can have a very controlled, planned event with a Nintendo Direct or something like that? There's no reason to get on stage other than sometimes Keanu Reeves gets heckled and it turns into a great meme about a game that crashes and burns anyways. There's the magic of E3, but I understand companies not wanting to risk an entire console on it.
Right, yeah. Do we know anything about the E3 release for this?
There was no E3 at that time. The first E3 was in 95, I want to say. That one we're going to talk about, or we talked about in our last episode, which we haven't recorded yet. The very first E3 was where Saturn dropped the ball in a big way. Yep. So I want to say it was 95. But
I think they just go about it wrong. Like, there's so much hype and stuff behind these console releases and everything that you're never going to live up to expectations. You're pretty much always going to fail because the fanboys will never be satisfied with whatever you put up there and whatever you say. Yeah, you're going to upset someone. Realistically, I think
Sony PlayStation, though, the first one, they did deliver everything.
Yeah, you set a high bar, but again, no console has probably lived up to that release to date.
Which release? The PlayStation?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a discussion. That is a debate. But that when I think in my head of a console that just had a flawless release, that would be one that comes to mind for sure. There are issues with the PlayStation. They didn't have enough jewel cases. They ran out of them. They planned on so many things, but they ran out of jewel cases for their games. So that's why they have those like weird, like long boxes sometimes too, because they just had to release them on something. Kind of a fun thing, but... Yes, Nintendo scored an early victory with the first console conversion of Street Fighter II. Street Fighter II for the Super Nintendo was a very, very popular arcade game. Street Fighter II was a very big deal, and it landed on the Super Nintendo first and it was there exclusively for a whole year, which was a major blow to Sega. But that was a big win. Mortal Kombat was also shortly following after. Big shout outs to all of our homies, Pacina, Marquez, Philip On, and all of the homies we're about to meet at MGC. Richard DeVizio, I don't know all of your names, but we're going to party soon, and I will. Yeah, but Mortal Kombat was not good for the Super Nintendo because, like we had mentioned, they like control. They want to be in charge of everything with their releases, and they didn't like blood on their system.
I remember definitely playing this because this was like why I went over to my friend's place was we would play this and then watch South Park. So it was like going over there
Essentially,
to be naughty little boys.
That was like doing drugs at that age.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely the equivalent. Especially, you're just uppercutting people into oblivion, which was amazing.
Ripping their spines out.
I was never good enough. I was really bad at that game.
I don't think we even knew about the fatalities back then.
They were kind of a myth at first. People kind of thought they knew what they were doing. And then some guy with 10 mustache hairs would come up wearing a fedora. And he's like, just sets the quarter down. He's like, once I play, you won't have a chance because I'm going to play all day. And he would do a fatality. And it was like, what? It makes that sound. Da-da-da-da. Yeah. And
Fatality.
yeah, that blew everyone's minds back then. It was extreme violence.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what made it fun. And, but yes, the Super Nintendo, no likey the blood, heavily censored. Genesis definitely had the edge there. 1994 is when the Saturn arrived, and Super Nintendo did sell 29 million more units than the Sega Genesis worldwide. So, as far as console wars go, I wouldn't say that there wasn't a distinct victor. Just Super Nintendo sold more, but the fact that Genesis etched its way into the history books, I think, is a major victory for them as well. And if you're going strictly on sales, though, yes, the Super Nintendo was a beautiful beast. Did very well. So let's take a look at the actual console here.
Oh, wow, look at that.
Yes. You'll notice this nice coloration. This is because back then they used cheap plastic. And not for all of it, though. Some of it doesn't color as badly, and that's because that's made with different stuff, I guess. But
So my RV, the walls used to have probably the same type of plastic that before we tore them all off, because every time we would peel away some stuff, we would see behind, and Sarah would always go, "What is up with this Nintendo yellow that's going on all over the place?" And I never really understood what she was talking about until, because I never had one of these, but that's what she means by Nintendo yellow, because my regular, original Nintendo never turned yellow.
Yeah.
So I always find that funny that is an actual type of shade of yellow.
yeah, it just looks like it's been in a smoker's house.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, it's kind of gross looking.
There are chemical mixtures now that they do make where it will return your console to that gray you want. There must have been a sticker here.
Yeah.
But yeah, Super Nintendo, nice blocky design to it. You have the power button, nice and clicky. Reset with spring load there. And this button people never use because they just rip their cartridges out. But there is a nice eject function. But I don't think a lot of people use it, unfortunately.
I was the exception. It was my brother's, and I treated that. We literally kept it in a glass case.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
So is yours yellow like this?
No.
With your virginity belts?
yeah, it's still there. Actually, they're both together. I'm just keeping those.
So did they ever come out with a slim version?
Yeah.
Okay, because I think that's the one my friend had.
That one's more rounded, smaller.
Yeah.
And not as good for a couple reasons. But
Ooh.
yeah. But the eject button, 2 controller ports on the front, which is nice. Got to have those two controllers. This is the SNES 00 or the SNS 001, the original model. And on the back, you have the multi-out. So this can do the regular composite out, S-video, and RGB. The smaller model cannot do RGB or S-video.
Okay.
This also has RF out and the channel 3-4 selector, which is fun. That's just something you don't think about anymore. But yes, maybe you wanted it on channel 4 instead of 3 for some fucking reason. I don't know.
I don't know the logic behind that either. I don't remember what the reasoning for the channel being so important.
Maybe like in Japan, when you turn a TV on, it used to default to channel 4 instead of channel 3.
Could be.
Yeah, different TVs, maybe. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
And then also the AC adapter, which has the big block coming out of the back. But I always like to just look at consoles because there's usually something that I don't know what it's for. And that is this. The EXT port, the extension port.
I honestly didn't know that.
How would you even like use it?
Well, the Nintendo actually had one of these as well, and I think
so. For those of you listening, there's a little like it looks like a battery like flap that you can take off.
Yeah.
And then you can plug something into the bottom of the console, not like the side. So how would you even play your thing if you had something plugged in?
It was only ever used in Japan on the Super Famicom. We have one on America that wasn't officially ever used.
Okay.
But it is for the Satellaview, which we will talk about a little bit later. Essentially, it's a giant like
box
satellite modem attachment thing. There is one game that used this, I think, in an unofficial capacity. I don't know if it was in America or just in Japan. It might be in America as well. Yeah, it must be in America. But you could attach a fitness bike to it for...
No.
Yeah. There's a whole video.
So there's like an original Wii Fit thing, but for the Super Nintendo?
It's not even a Wii Fit. It's a whole fitness bike that has like a connection for a Super Nintendo.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So like what? Then you play like Tour de France or something?
Here, I'll look it up real
Oh,
quick.
that is awesome.
That is insane.
It's like the original track, or it's like a secondary trackpad. They were like with a Nintendo, that trackpad thing, I thought was the greatest. We used to play it all the time.
Very cool.
Yeah.
It's like, why would I go outside and run, Dad? I can run in here.
Again, with comparative to like the fishing thing, like, why would you run in here? Because this is cooler and I'm way faster.
Why would I wake up at 4 a.m. to go fishing when I could just do it whenever?
Look at that masterpiece.
So it's got Exertainment, Mountain Bike Rally, Speed Racer.
This is an attachment designed by Nintendo?
Nope, but it was a release. It wasn't designed by Nintendo, though. But
you know, honestly, based on the fact that nowadays I can't run, that's a really that's a really good idea, and the popularity of those ridiculous Pelotons now.
Yep. So there'd be little controller, like half controllers on both sides of the bike, where you hold on there to control whatever you do on these games.
Is it actually called an Exertainment bike?
Yeah, it's for Exertainment.
That's fantastic.
What are you doing? I'm exercising.
Oh God, it sounds so painfully 90s.
But yeah, that's the core console. And like I had mentioned, there is the SNES 101 model. This was released in October of 1997, so this is after things have been out. The next generation was around already. But this released in North America for $99, the smaller model. Mm-hmm. And sometimes called the SNES 2, sometimes called the SNES Mini. It had no eject button, no RF input, and channel selector. Because why would you need them anymore? But also, yeah, the ability to output as video or RGB has been removed, so it won't look as good as this original one.
When you plug this in now, does it need to be on channel 3?
That's only if you do the RF.
Okay.
Yep, and that's like if you're plugging in through the cable part, which, they used to have that old school, like, little cable box thing, but no, I use the AV multi-out, and I generally will use an S-Video for that console. But I haven't hooked it up in a while. It's a little fidgety. If you look in the back, the AV out is definitely like fucked up.
Right, and you have your little classic, so you don't really need to plug that in.
No, I'm fine with emulation. Some people will say that is heresy, but it is convenience.
Yes,
and that wins for me every time. And the European Super Nintendo shared the design of the Super Famicom, so that would have the Japanese design instead. Mode 7 was a very big deal for the Super Nintendo. That's a graphics mode that allows a background layer to be rotated and scaled on a scanline by scanline basis to create many different effects. So for us regular people, it just makes the background look like it's 3D and move different.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yes. You get it, Nate?
Yeah, I understand the scan line as well, since I know a decent amount of coding.
So yeah, perspective effect on background layer it's by scaling and rotating the layer. So think Mario Kart, like the way it kind of the rest of the level like moves around and scales away from you. It just gives you a nice 3D looking effect, even if it isn't. Depth and an impression of 3D graphics, but the Super Nintendo, the American one, can play Super Famicom games.
Cool.
It's not region locked in the actual hardware, but what you have to do are there's little plastic things right in there, right there. If you rip those out or clip them out, that's the only thing preventing the Famicom games from sliding in. So if you remove those little guys, you can actually play Famicom games on your Super Nintendo, which is kind of fun.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. What a preventative measure they take on that one.
Well, it was similar to like what the Game Boy Color could do.
Yeah.
And not the Game Boy.
Yeah, I was pretty upset about those things. Like going out of your way to make things not compatible always irks me a tad. But yeah, I find it ridiculous that just two little plastic tabs are the solution here.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know what the benefit of, like, what's the big deal if someone wants to play a Japanese game in America?
Those American devils.
And at least, like, in Europe at the time, it was an issue because their TVs were playing at different frame rates. So PAL was different. Their games, they played at a different frame rate. So everything, like, played a little slower. It sounds just bonkers weird.
Yeah, doesn't make a lot of sense. It's like metrics to, nobody likes that stuff.
The metric system is good.
Yeah.
But different frame rate televisions are bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, they were actually playing games at different frame rates for a while, which is just really strange to think about.
That is, yeah. I can't remember all the nuances to early television and things along those lines. It's been too long. Tube TVs.
The Super Nintendo cartridge. This is a ROM cartridge with 6 megabytes of data.
6 whole megabytes.
Wow.
Yeah. It's jam packed in there. You can't fit more megabytes in there. You could try, but there's no room. It's just all megabyte.
So much information.
And some of them did have enhancement chips, which supplemental chips used in some cartridges. Not many. I want to say there's like maybe 50 different games. I actually used enhancement chips. And then some games also had battery-backed SRAM, so you could save your game. You save your game on Illusion of Gaia. I don't know if you would need to on WrestleMania the arcade game, but you probably can. I don't know if you'd need to. Some games you definitely don't, though. I haven't actually opened one of these up before. It looks fairly easy.
You have to unscrew it.
There's no screws.
I don't think it goes back together is the thing. I remember as a kid we destroyed something because we took it apart. But I think those two little top pieces are just clips.
I don't want to do that to this one then.
No, not Illusion of Gaia.
Yeah,
That's a good
no.
one. But that is a good one.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember. So I'm pretty sure those two things on the top are just tabs. If you press them down, you can peel it open.
No, there's some weird screws on the front, though. That you can't access on the back. It's weird. They don't want me to play. Of course, we have the Super Nintendo controller. Iconic. Added 2 more buttons than the Nintendo had on the front, and then also the L and R buttons. Games are getting more complicated, so we do need to have more ways to play them. This one's held together with tape, you can see.
I do, yeah. And now that you're an electrician, I see you've used your handy electrician's tape to fix that wire.
Actually, with no electrician experience, I did tape this before.
Well, that's not certified.
It's not certified.
You gotta fix that.
I could lose my. Don't tell the union. Super Nintendo controller is very cool. As far as some other official peripherals for the console, Nintendo did release a cleaning kit, which is a cartridge that actually has cleaning bristles, and you just like put it in, put it in your cartridge or in your console, and that would clean it up.
Is that any more effective than just doing the old blow into it?
It is. It's effective in different ways. And they'll still do that. Like a lot of the different ways to clean old consoles, they'll have something that is just the shape of a cartridge because it'll actually like lock in and just like completely get it. You could also get one-up card. We talked with those guys at MGC, and those are super inexpensive ways to clean these off as well, where you just kind of dab one side and just go back and forth. But Nintendo did have an official cleaning kit. For some reason, I don't know.
My mom was unwilling to buy the cleaning kit, and she's just like, use what are those things?
Q-tip.
Q-tip with rubbing alcohol and just clean off the little microchip on the bottom. But it does eventually deteriorate the board we found. But it does clean it. It works.
Yeah.
And we were just cheap. And that was great. I loved it.
Did you guys ever use the Super Scope?
Is that the thing from the Mario Brothers movie?
Yes. In the weirdest way to describe it, yes, Dom.
I have not used one of those, but I know the picture on the box is like, instead of them holding it like a gun, they have it like on their shoulder as a bazooka kind of looking thing.
Yeah, I don't know. They had to redesign the zapper because it looked too much like a real gun. And the Super Scope, they're like, well, we'll just make it look like a bazooka this time.
I remember it now that you guys describe it, but I never used one in any way.
My understanding is the Super Scope isn't nearly as playable as anything with the zapper. You actually have to look through a scope to play games with it, and that just sounds stupid. I do not want to play a game looking through a scope the entire time.
It sounds atrocious.
It sounds really bad, but yeah, I made it into the Mario Brothers movie, so that's good. The Super Nintendo mouse.
No.
No.
What game would you play that with?
This guy is a rookie in the Super Nintendo.
I never used it.
But you know its existence, right?
I know about that one.
Like you're talking about like a computer mouse, right?
It had two buttons and then a mouse ball or whatever that's called.
It's a mouse ball.
A mouse ball. Sounds weird. Yeah, it's a mouse, and it came with Mario Paint.
Oh shit! I've never played that.
Mario Paint. It's like a very cheap image editing software. It's not cheap. It's incredibly robust for what the Super Nintendo was offering at the time.
I'm sure it's similar to Paint on like the PC.
Although you also could make music with it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna just play you a song. Real quick.
Is this an original? A
song
Bradley
might be-
original?
No.
Man, I am looking through this book of all the games, and
There's some good stuff in
Just
there,
hitting
man.
home.
Yeah, like when I was going through this, I was the pocket version of what you're looking at. Barbie Supermodel on the last night's playlist.
Okay, so
I can only imagine how that would have went over.
this is Daft Punk's "Get Lucky" done in Mario Paint.
This is fantastic. Wow, that's actually really cool.
Incredibly good.
Yeah, all the
Incredibly
notes,
robust, yeah.
all the notes are like different characters from the video game, and wow.
That is super cool.
Yeah.
That's how all music's made now.
Yeah.
That's just what they do.
And we'll do one more. Oh. Bohemian Rhapsody is really stretching the limits of Mario
Yeah.
Paint.
That one's not quite as good.
That's a tougher song to put on there, maybe. But yeah, Mario Paint, you would use a mouse. You could actually use a mouse to create with that. And you can now, Hyperkin makes a like digital, like a laser mouse for the Super Nintendo. So it's a lot more consistent. But people forget about the mouse. And the people that know about it forget that it's not just for Mario Paint. You can play other games with your Nintendo mouse, including Doom, Jurassic Park, and Wolfenstein 3D. So if you want to play Doom with a mouse on the Super Nintendo, by golly, you can. And Super Nintendo Master Race, anyone?
Yeah, right. I'm in.
Have you seen footage of people playing Doom?
Yeah.
With it? Does it look like it's hard? Because I'd imagine like a first-person shooter would be kind of okay.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I don't know if you need to use a controller in the other port, though, necessarily, because otherwise you're pretty limited with what you can do. But yeah, I know some games you can actually use 2 mouses for, too. I don't know why, but...
Some people just like getting crazy, man.
It's like the original joystick style thing.
And I imagine, like, SimCity with a mouse, I'm sure...
that would be a banger for sure.
It's a dream. It's a dream. But yes, there is a Super Nintendo mouse. There is a Super Multi-Tap. For multiplayer games, more than 2 players, there's at least 100 games that have this as an option. Most that I could find officially was 5 players for a game. There is one homebrew game, at least, that allows for up to 8 players if you have 2 multi-taps hooked up, which... Wow. That's cool. That's cool. If homebrew people are just going to push the limits of things.
What game would you do that with? Like,
a lot of sports games would let you have more than 2 players. I think one of the most unique options is Secret of Mana, which is kind of like an action RPG. That's a 3-player game. You can beat the entire game as a 3-player experience.
Cool.
Which very cool back in the day.
Yeah.
And also, why not 4?
No, Brad. All right.
Who's this guy? Get him out of here. He can't ask questions like this.
Who has that many friends? Your parents aren't going to play with you.
That is that is the real limit to how many players per game is how many friends do you have. We are going to take a quick break to hear from some of the other amazing shows from the HyperX Podcast Network. And we'll be right back. Enjoy some more Mario Paint music on the way in or out. Both.
Do you love Japan and video games? Well, so do we. We're Kinsey and Mark from Kyoto Indie Devs Chuhai Labs. Join us twice monthly for games, silly Japan news, and all-around nonsense. We stink at making commercials.
We f***ing got this one, bro.
Be sure to stop by the Chuhai Labs Discord to chat about our games or ask us questions.
Chuhai Labs and the Nasty Labs podcast. We're legally the best.
Need some adventure in your life? What Mad Universe is a podcast where 2 guys delve into the history of sci-fi, fantasy, and horror, and the impact it's had on pop culture.
Everything's the same politically, but we have ray guns.
The actual motive isn't to explore something that's, quote, scientifically possible.
But neither is Star Wars, and I know there's arguments about that, but I would definitely consider Star Wars science fiction.
You haven't read Dune!
No, I haven't.
You can never be the Kwisatz Haderach.
What Mad Universe on the HyperX Podcast Network.
Eliminate clutter and embrace the freedom of HyperX wireless gaming gear for PC and console. Power through all the great monthly PlayStation Plus games with the Cloud Stinger Core wireless for PlayStation. Enjoy lightweight comfort with reliable wireless freedom, so you won't miss plot points when you head to the fridge. High-quality HyperX wireless products can be found at most fine retailers, as well as online at Target, Micro Center, Best Buy, Amazon, Walmart, or shop directly at hyperx.com and hp.com.
I am 100% just looking through this to find a game that I used to play, and I can just hear the noise, but I can't think of the name of the game.
Well, it looks like you only have another 1,300 games to look through.
What was it about?
There was like a caveman, and it just was like there's like a weird noise, and I can just hear that noise. I can't make the noise.
I think it's Home Improvement.
Yeah,
that's what you're looking for.
I've never seen something so good. Or Tim Allen shoot someone with a nail gun.
Joe and Mac. Look up Joe and Mac in there.
Oh. But I went through J already.
Prehistoric Man. Congo's Caper. Super Bonk. Chuck Rock. And we're back, everybody. Yes, we are trying to find a specific caveman game.
Right here?
That.
That's the one. We found it.
Joe and Mac?
It's Joe and Mac.
Yeah?
There's a noise in this. I loved this game so much. Is
it the pterodactyl that makes that noise?
No, it's like the dude. He goes like, or like that was Mickey Mouse. It's different.
I'm a caveman.
Like 100%. after this, if I could borrow your emulator, I want to play this like so super bad. Half because I want you guys to hear the noise.
It's 2022. Your phone could probably emulate what you need to do. Actually, I know it could emulate it.
There's also probably a YouTube video that we could easily watch.
Look at you guys and your thinking before doing.
And for those listening, we are looking through some of my wonderful Super Nintendo books. I have the Super Nintendo Works from Jeremy Parrish. I have the complete SNES Collector's Book and Ultimate Guide from Jeffrey Wittenhagen. And the Ultimate Nintendo Guide to the Super SNES Library from Pat the NES Punk. These are all really great books to, if you want to see 1,700 video games in one package, that is the way to do it.
Yeah.
Getting back to some of the other peripherals for this console, the Super Advantage was an arcade stick, third party, but if you want to play your Street Fighter like you're at the arcade, great. There's your option there. Have you guys ever been arcade stick people for your consoles?
Like, not for my consoles.
Yeah.
No. So I do that at the arcade.
I'd rather an arcades have a controller, but that'd be gross. Yeah.
But I also like when you're standing, it's easier to like do all that.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just don't want to sit down and try and do that.
I had
Awkward.
Yeah. I had to go to joystick because I doing like the Mortal Kombat roll to shoot your whatever thing. What is Liu Kang? Whatever Liu Kang shoots.
He has a fireball.
And I would press so hard with my thumb that I wore all the skin off on my thumb, so I had to upgrade. Otherwise, I would just have a bloody thumb all the time.
Gaming's dangerous.
It's aggressive.
And I've calloused over, so I'm good.
Yeah, no, I would not wait long enough for any sort of callus to stay. I'd just be like, I gotta shoot the thing.
And
so
as most young Mortal Kombat players, you only know one move, so that is what you are going to do every time.
Yeah, no big deal, but I shot the thing and I uppercut. No big deal.
Whoa.
Yeah, I had combos.
When I was Liu Kang, I would just go forward kick and just do the flying kick.
Oh! Yep, the straight leg super kick.
That might have been what he said.
All right.
Great.
Another fantastic piece of hardware for this, the Super Game Boy. You guys are familiar with the Super Game Boy, I'm sure, right?
That's just Game Boy, right? Or what is a Super Game Boy?
No, it's the cartridge that goes in, and then you put your Game Boy cartridge in the cartridge, so it's cartridgeception.
Okay, yeah.
So you can play your Game Boys.
You've seen one, right?
I've used it. I played Pokemon on my, now that I think about it. I didn't know that's what it was called, though.
Yeah.
I thought it was just...
It's the Super Game Boy. And the Super Nintendo actually isn't strong enough to handle emulation. So the Super Game Boy has like a working Game Boy inside of it. And it just converts the signal to the Super Nintendo for it, which is fine. Japan, the kids were very upset with the Super Game Boy because they wanted to use it as like link between other Game Boys with it so they could trade Pokemon and play together. So there is a Super Game Boy 2 that only came out in Japan that has the link option. You can like plug a link cable into it. Great. Also, I mean, that'd be fun. You can trade Pokemon with yourself then if you don't have friends. Hook your Game Boy up to your Super Game Boy.
And as we discussed, the friends thing is an issue. Some people, oh yeah, I got all these friends.
Do you have any multiplayer games? Don't need them.
Yeah, why? Who
Why
are
would
you?
I have that?
Honestly, why are you in my house?
Yeah. Who are you? Why are you asking me?
Just because your mom says we have to play together doesn't mean we're friends.
Yeah, get out of the blue shade carpet room.
Yeah. Don't touch the carpet.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. I can't not touch it.
That's right.
The Scoremaster, I didn't even put what that is, so it mustn't have been too cool. The Nintendo Power Flash cartridge. Japan only. This is, like it says, a little flash cartridge. You could go to kiosks and download games to it, which is kind of a cool concept. But you couldn't, you'd have to swap games out. So, like, if you downloaded something, you wouldn't have room for the other thing. But a cool way. I mean, they were definitely trying different ways to get games into people's hands.
It's almost like the first rental. Kind of.
Digital rental, anyways. And then we need to talk about the Satellaview, which is a satellite modem for the Super Famicom in 1995. You would be able to download games magazines, other media. You could listen to live radio shows through your Super Famicom with the Satellaview. Very weird. Monthly subscription fees. It was kind of like a proto-online experience. And they had 114 games available on there, including some exclusive Satellaview games. There is a full remake of the original Legend of Zelda with like updated Super Nintendo looking graphics, only ever released in the Satellaview, which is
interesting.
Which is weird. I'll pull up some pictures here.
How popular was that?
I think it was relatively popular over there. Legend of Zelda.
So just in case there's any listeners that are like, I had a Scoremaster, it's just another arcade joystick dealio.
Yeah. So it was the NES Zelda.
Oh, that looks great, actually.
It does look.
I like that it's just The Legend of Zelda BS. Like that's what it means for this Satellaview game, but it just looks like bullshit. But yeah, just like graphically updated, but the same game, and only ever released on the Satellaview, which is kind of odd. Even more odd, though, is A Link to the Past sequel, only available on the Satellaview. The Legend of Zelda Ancient Stone Tablets. Granted, a pretty dumb name. It's not A Link to the Past. It's not the Phantom Hourglass. It is Ancient Stone Tablets. But
did he get them from the top of a mountain?
He probably.
I'm just saying. Hope there's no connotation here.
But it is a Link to the Past sequel, and it's set in like the same world, but like different story. The problem is these games would be broken into essentially 1 hour long chunks. You couldn't play for longer than an hour like with these. So Ancient Stone Tablets was like 4 different experiences you'd have to download.
Oh, that sounds terrible.
But luckily, through the power of emulation, these things are preserved. Because otherwise, I would be hooking my Satellaview up to my Super Famicom in America, very frustrated the services no longer offered.
Yeah.
There is an unlicensed peripheral that allowed you to play NES games called the Super 8. Essentially, I think you just plug this in, you plug it in the top, and then you can plug Nintendo games into there, which is something you think Nintendo would have released itself, but they didn't. And then, like I mentioned before, the Exertainment Bike that uses the EXT port, which is short for Exertainment, maybe. I thought it was external extension. Nope, it's just short for Exertainment, maybe.
That's the way it should be.
Yep.
It probably is, yeah.
The Exertainment port. And, we mentioned some of the different models. We mentioned some of the problems. Nintendo still wanted to carefully review their games, but with that, they limited the violence that was in Mortal Kombat, and they didn't let anything too graphically intense get released, like in a violent sense. But in 1993, congressional hearings on video game violence were had. You can always open up beers right in the microphone. People like that sound.
Yeah, something made me think that it was rude if I just cracked a beer right in front of the microphone, but yeah.
That's accepted. Big Mac eating is not.
Yeah, that even bothers me when I eat. Yeah, never mind.
But yeah, in 1993, Joe Lieberman led a congressional hearing on video game violence, particularly on Mortal Kombat and Night Trap.
Oh, yeah, I guess so.
Much to the love of Mortal Kombat and Night Trap, which were all over the news. They're like, fuck yes, this is great. But yeah, so Nintendo and Sega both had a person there representing their company at this hearing. And Nintendo said, it's just like Sega is horrible and no one likes them. They're stupid and they have blood on their console. And Sega said, we're aiming towards adults. Nintendo has violence and they aim to kids. So they're both like, no, you suck. And they were just adults kind of trying to shirk it the other way, which is really funny. Essentially, the government said, you two figure this out. We shouldn't have to come in here and look over this. Sega was already working on its own rating system at the time to kind of guide parents. And they're like, all right, Nintendo, let's just use this. We already got it working. Nintendo said, fuck you. Let's make something new. So that's how the ESRB was born, because they didn't want anything Nintendo or that Sega made by themselves. So that's where the ESRB came from. And Mortal Kombat fucking loved it. Yes, put us on the news again. Show another fatality on the news, please.
It's like bickering siblings, but corporation-sized siblings.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's like, oh, South Park is the one show I can't watch. I want to watch it.
Oh, yeah, that was, I mean, shock value all over the place with, like, 90s style, 90s ideas, everything about just over the top. At least what I remember. Wasn't around in the earlier years, obviously. 70s, 80s and stuff.
Yes. Rare and Nintendo did prove very late in the game that the Super Nintendo was still a powerhouse with the release of Donkey Kong Country in November 1994. This was a game that was using enhancement chips and definitely pushed the polygon. It had pre-rendered 3D graphics, which were incredibly impressive at the time. They couldn't say it looked like Toy Story because Toy Story wasn't out yet, but if it was, that's what they would say.
That game, like, oh, again, it's like Super Mario World style. Like, it's a game-defining, quintessential everything. It's so good.
It is goddamn fun. I do like that game.
I feel like that's where, like, kind of where it started, though. Like, nobody was complaining about hitboxes and stuff. Prior to then, you were just figuring out what hitboxes were.
You were just kids. You didn't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't feel like you're getting cheesed because the barrel went through the enemy. I was just like, damn, I suck.
The Super Nintendo, the last video game made for it, that was also published by Nintendo, goes to Metal Slayer Glory Director's Cut on November 29th, 2000. This was available via the Nintendo Power downloadable cartridge system. As far as the last physical release, that goes to Fire Emblem Thracia.
Oh, wow.
On January 21st, 2000. We're going to go through the top 10 best-selling Super Nintendo games of all time.
Okay.
And as we get closer, try and figure out what will be number one. We already know, but... number 10, we have Star Fox, which sold 4 million, which is a game that I personally can't play. I think if you were at the time, it was great, but now it is hard to play. You look offended, Nate.
Yeah, I'm just I'm too into it. I'm too nostalgic about all of this. I just think it's fantastic. There's no way I'd think I'd ever play any of these because, well, that's the lie. Last night we played Gradius and a bunch of other games. I mean, Home Improvement, the game, so good.
Yep.
Every time I don't like playing it, I like seeing it. It's almost like the era of watching people play video games. I get it. Like, I don't really want to play because it doesn't look great to me anymore. The feel is just bad now that I've played everything else.
I have to hook up a controller.
Yeah, there's a lot of work.
And I really don't want to play Home Improvement, but I do want to watch someone play Home Improvement.
Yeah, it was great. There's no way I wanted to play. I mean, I played Earthworm Jim, and that was just embarrassing. Yeah.
I've never seen someone so scared and careful in that game.
Yeah.
A bird attacks you, and you shoot like every bullet you own.
Yeah, I just spamming.
It's like Ace Ventura, where you immediately throw your torch and everything you own at it, and you're like, oh no.
I might have messed up.
I made a terrible mistake. Number 9, we have Street Fighter 2 Hyper Fighting.
Okay.
This sold 4.1 million. Number 8, Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island, a game which I still have not played longer than 20 minutes. I personally can't wrap my head around it, don't like it. But Dylan gets very upset when I say that.
I also didn't play it, which is weird because I'm such a
Mario
huge
World
fan.
Mario World 1 is so fucking good.
Yeah.
And Mario World 2 just...
This is the one with Baby Mario in it, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I know that game was somewhat made in response to the popularity of the Donkey Kong Country series because Mario World 2 is just so lavishly hand-drawn and just artistic, and Donkey Kong Country looks like someone took a dump with their computer, which is still good, but there's just very different graphical styles to them. And yeah, but no, Mario World 2. I'm surprised it's number 8 on this list because I don't really know many people that have strong feelings about that game.
Agreed. I wonder if more of them sold.
There was a pack-in for the SNES Mini, I believe.
Okay.
The SNES 2, so that definitely helped. I think 8 out of these 10 games were pack-ins at one point, which that'll bolster your numbers for sure.
Yeah, it's a guaranteed sale.
Number 7, Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. Good lord, what a good game. At 4.61 million units. Number 6, Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Conquest, 5.15 million. Number 5, Street Fighter 2 shows up again with the World Warrior. because they have 20 versions of Street Fighter back then. The World Warrior had 6.3 million. Number 4 was Super Mario Kart, 8.76 million. Number 3, Donkey Kong Country 1, 9.3 million. Number 2, Super Mario All-Stars, a bunch of Nintendo games.
This is number 2?
Number 2.
Wow. That's surprising to me.
Yep, 10.55 million. And number 1 is, of course,
Super Mario World?
Super Mario World 1, yes.
Damn, Mortal Kombat's not on there at all, huh?
Nope.
Wow.
Mortal Kombat sold more on the Sega because people did want the blood. And if you had an option, you went for the bloodier version for sure.
Yep.
That's just the way the world works. Super Mario World, though, sold 20.61 million, over 10 million more than the previous entry. But again, pack-in title at release. Deservedly so. But
Agreed. So deservedly so that realistically they stopped releasing the hyper-popular games with systems so that they could make sales.
So what are some of your favorite games on the Super Nintendo, guys?
We've touched on a few. There's obviously, we just talked about the Joe and whoever cavemen game. That's one of them. Oh man, I could keep going.
What do you do in Joe and Mac? I don't even know.
So you like pick up weapons and you fight all the dinosaurs so you can score the hot caveman babes. 100%. There's caveman babes.
And that's still what you're going for today.
Yeah. I mean, it's not working, but I'm trying. Gradius 3 also so good. Super Mario World. I feel like I wouldn't play it again. That's a lie. We just discussed how I wouldn't play it again. But it is so good. Going back.
You wouldn't play Super Mario World again?
I don't think I would.
Dude, it's still good.
It's still really good. I get it. But like we just discussed how like it's cool to watch for a little bit for nostalgic value. But I don't think I'd have the dedication with like an Elden Ring where when I play that, I'm doing a
different build in Mario World. I'm going to be a sorceress this time.
Yeah. I've done everything in Super Mario World. It would be nostalgic to do it again, but I don't really want to put in the time and effort.
What game? So last night we had the NES Mini hooked up, and I have that kind of cracked open to have many, many games on there. What game were we playing where the player was incredibly slow?
Peter Pan or Hook. Yeah, Hook.
Laughably slow.
Yeah.
Very bizarre. I wonder if that was an issue with the emulation or that's just how shitty it is.
It might just be the way it plays.
Yeah.
Let's see if the book has anything to say about it.
Yeah, I definitely didn't play that back in the day, but like I said, I did Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, all of those Mario games, especially Mario Kart. But that's the extent of what I remember, having not owned one.
Yeah, we did check out Home Improvement. Mm-hmm. Home Improvement, which is maybe the best game released in the Super Nintendo.
It arguably, but yes, I think so.
If you're not familiar, Tim the Toolman Taylor has a new set of tools that are being released with Bilford, and
he has to go find them. They've gone missing.
They've gone missing, and Al has this big shit-eating grin on his face, and he says,
I wonder where they could have gone.
The message where the tools were says, if you want your tools, you got to go back to the Stone Age. And Al's like, I guess you should go over to Studio B where they're shooting that prehistoric show. And you take your staple gun, and yes, you are fighting dinosaurs and pterodactyls as Tim Allen. It is a beloved series. People have been clamoring for a remake a la Final Fantasy VII for Home Improvement for a long time. Nothing yet. We haven't gotten past the first level. We don't know how it ends. We are all on the edge of our seats here at Raw Dogs. But if anyone has beaten it, we do want to know the ending. We refuse to Google it. This is we would not spoil the story of such a beautiful game. But if you have any tips, please let us know. There was a lot of really great RPGs on this system, including Final Fantasy III, which I was surprised you'd never heard how those were released before, Dom.
No.
Because, I said, look, I have Final Fantasy VI. And he said, that's Final Fantasy III. What do you mean? And I said, well, that's because they were released differently over here. And then you said, is Final Fantasy II Final Fantasy V? And I said, no, it's Final Fantasy IV.
Silly, you idiot.
Get it together. The RPGs were a very big deal on this. Loved Final Fantasy III. Illusion of Gaia is also one of my favorites, which is an action RPG, dungeon explorer. Beautiful game. Some good wrestling games on here. WrestleMania, the arcade game, was a very big deal for my brother, me, and my friends. They actually, a la Mortal Kombat, digitized the wrestlers. So you actually see Lex Luthor and Bam Bam Bigelow and Undertaker. It's very arcadey, and it's very fun. It's leaning into the silliness, but this is definitely made in response to Mortal Kombat. And very fun game. There's a lot of really good games. I mean, Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past,
Right.
arguably one of the best Zelda games of all time. Are y'all big Zelda gamers?
Yeah.
I went through the Nintendo 64. I haven't played any of the recent ones, but I am a huge fan. I like the idea. I always thought his name was Zelda.
Isn't it?
Link?
Yeah.
We don't want that much angry mail.
Yeah.
His last name is Zelda. It's Link Zelda.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
You don't find out, though, until the end when he takes his clothes off, if you go fast enough, that he was a woman the whole time.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm getting there. I'll get there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a fan. Definitely a fan. I still need to... What's the newest one? Into the Wild?
Breath of the Wild.
Breath of the Wild. I'm so behind.
Into the Wild is where Link goes and dies in a bus somewhere.
Nice.
Super Metroid, amazing game. I didn't actually play that, though, until about 5 years ago for the first time. Beautifully atmospheric, stark video game, scary video game. Metroid is the closest to survival horror you'll get on a lot of Nintendo consoles outside of Resident Evil. But yeah, I love Super Metroid. That is a barren, very sparse, atmospheric game, which you don't get with Joe and Mac just trying to bang cave women.
Come on. Don't degrade my game choices, bro.
Dude, everybody knows that there's a cave woman out there for you, Nate. You'll find her.
And it also makes sense that you are against my choices, because I wasn't a huge Metroid fan. I'm still not. I've played a bunch of them, but they just never really resonated with me. My brother thought they were great, but I just probably didn't like them because he was a fan. That's a possibility. Mm-hmm. So then that just carried over through life.
There was a cartridge for home banking for people that didn't have computers, but they wanted to do home banking. You could plug in your home banking cartridge. It came with a special controller with a keyboard on it. Just buy a fucking computer. But if you wanted to home bank on your Super Nintendo, you could.
Was there a Frogger for the Super Nintendo?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. I played Frogger on my parents' console back in the day, and I was like, oh, this is great. I just like video games, I guess. That's the thing. But, I mean, we played Tetris Attack last night. There's Kirby's Avalanche. Bomberman.
Is Kirby's Avalanche... Is Kirby's Avalanche...
You got it.
Kirby's Avalanche.
Kirby's Babalanche.
Is Kirby's Babalanche... Is that the golf one?
No, that's I think it's like a Bubble Blast type of game,
It's like a puzzle. So we played Tetris Attack. It's very similar where like you match stuff and make...
That was a good game.
Yeah, I really liked it. And I was way too drunk last night and we were pathetic. But like, it was fun.
I think the one we did was called like Crash Course or something like that.
That's
the golf one, yeah.
Okay.
But that's like a puzzle breaker combat multiplayer game.
Dream Course.
And I think it's really good. A huge fan. I was better at Tetris Attack, so I'd always try and get my buddies to play Tetris Attack. And we were like, I guess it would have been retro gaming at the time, like high school all the time. We would play Super Nintendo and regular Nintendo more than we'd play anything else in my buddy's basement while we got hammered.
A lot of good franchises were put onto the Super Nintendo. Addams Family was a great game.
Lethal Weapon we played last night.
God.
There's like a lot of... We were going through it and I was like, there's a lot of movies and TV shows and stuff that they don't really do nowadays.
For a good reason.
Lethal Weapon, a very strange R-rated movie starring Mel Gibson and Danny Glover. Yeah, make a Super Nintendo game for it.
Yeah.
That's what the kids want. Home Improvement. He fights dinosaurs. Sure. Print it. Actually, let's look this up. I do want to see what happens.
Killer Instinct? Hot damn.
Is that the movie?
There's
not a movie, is there?
Called Killer Instinct? Or is that Basic Instinct that I'm thinking of? Yeah. Not the same thing.
But I bet you Sharon Stone's a port over into the game. You can use her as a combat character for sure.
There are a lot of Terminator games as well for this.
Home Improvement. The subtitle is Power Tool Pursuit! !
Nice.
But here, we're going to go to the Wikipedia for this game. Let's find a little bit more about Home Improvement. I am curious.
So many of these games just going back in time.
He goes to retrieve the tools only to discover that they are missing. Okay, I already know this part of the plot. Okay, the Wikipedia page for Home Improvement is very lacking.
Sparse.
Guide. Let's look up a guide here.
All the Kirby games are honestly really good for the Super Nintendo. Kirby
Whereas
was crushing.
All the Mario games are not, because Mario had 4 educational titles. Fun with Letters, Fun with Numbers. Mario is missing a lot of hot garbage, but...
You sure it wasn't Mario Banking when you're talking about the banking cartridge?
Bowser's Banking.
Yeah, right? Deposits only. Chrono Trigger? How have we not mentioned Chrono Trigger yet?
Chrono Trigger's fucking awesome.
Yeah, that, so fucking good.
Yep. Mature storytelling, fun gameplay. Turns out Home Improvement for the Super Nintendo did not include a real manual. It included a fake manual with a sticker reading, "Real men don't need instructions."
That is awesome.
Okay, here, let's look more into this Power Tool Pursuit, because I think I found a little bit more. The player's weapon includes modified tools such as a nail gun, a blowtorch, which is used as a flamethrower, and a saw which hurls energy waves. These weapons are used to fight dinosaurs, acid-spewing mummies, robot sentries, and other enemies. The game is broken down into 4 worlds of 4 levels, each world containing a boss. The game had no real instruction manual. Instead, it had a fake manual which said, "Real men don't need instructions."
Oh, very good.
Yeah. Was published by Absolute Entertainment, which Disney hired the company to produce the game after it completed another video game, Goofy's Hysterical History Tour. Home Improvement, reviews at the time were generally mixed to positive. While the sitcom adaptation's concept of Tim Allen fighting through fantastical enemies such as mummies, dinosaurs, and robots led it to appear on several all-time lists of weirdest video games in later years. GamePro gave it a mixed review, calling it like Pitfall with power tools. They commented that the game plays well and is easy to pick up on, has solid graphics, but features mediocre music. And not challenging enough for hardcore players.
I think that's a little critical.
Okay, let's look up Home Improvement SNES bosses. I want to see who he fights.
I mean, College Slam was for the Super
imagine
Nintendo?
It's probably a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Then probably King Tut.
Homeimprovement.fandom.com. This is a thing?
I imagine it would be.
It makes sense, right?
We all watched it, right?
This is lacking as well. Although Heidi, the beautiful assistant, she has a pretty big Wikipedia page, so that's good.
Nice.
Yeah. For all those cavemen. I don't know, but this is the final boss. Look at Tim Allen. He's got a giant saw.
He looks pretty brutal. What's he doing with that chainsaw?
This music is great.
That is incredible.
He's got a flamethrower now?
Someone just playing a woodblock at extremely random moments.
Is that it?
Okay, he's fighting a giant green mech. They're shooting bombs at him.
What?
I bet Al's inside.
Is that a flamethrower? What is that weapon?
It's a blowtorch, but it's kind of a flamethrower.
It looks, yeah.
He's got 4 Tim Allens in case he dies. He's got 8 nuts. 4 times the usual amount. Binford presents the Turbo Deforester. I think that was one of his own tools he had to fight.
His tools became corrupted?
Great work, Dad. I want to be just like you when I grow up. Really, Brad? Let's read from some of the Discord responses. Judge Tempest says, "I think I will remember the music more than anything. So many amazing soundtracks." I added to his comment, "Just like Home Improvement, which has a really great song for the final boss." Thanks for sharing, Judge Tempest. Ryan said, he would sometimes rent a Super Nintendo from Blockbuster for when I had birthday parties. Fun times. Probably the fondest memory I had was using the Super Game Boy attachment to play Pokemon on my TV.
Nice.
Yeah, it's something that we all did. We all liked Pokemon, and that was the best way to play it if you weren't in the car and you didn't have a worm light.
Yeah. Yeah, that was. I remember having like a flashlight in my mouth while driving on trips to see my grandma and stuff, playing Game Boy. Also, I think it was a godsend for my parents. Just like, this kid needs a Game Boy because he won't shut up and sit still in the car.
Give him something.
Yeah, like, oh my God.
My mom bought me one of those attachments that had like the magnifying glass and the light built into it.
Mm-hmm. Same.
Yep. Where it looked like it wanted to kill itself.
Mm-hmm. All the time. It was just droopy. Yeah. And yeah, eventually you just kept it on the angle while you were playing, and you're like, all right, I'm just dealing with it.
The controller attachments to it, so it looked even weirder, but was more comfortable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And, this was something that I never did, but renting consoles from rental stores. Do you remember kind of the price points for that? It's odd to me.
I don't remember. I never rented a console, obviously. Like, I would just demand my parents bought me one.
Yeah.
And my brother was into it, so it's like a double bird killer.
It was a thing my friend's mom did for him, so.
Yeah.
I don't really remember how much that would have been.
It was always dangerous back then renting games, because if the save was kept on the game, if you took it back, your save is probably gone. You don't know. Mm-hmm. At least with the advent of memory cards, you could store things and continue playing even without the disc. But
I feel like rental wasn't even something any video game console thing even considered.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't a thing. Nobody's going to want to do that. I feel like it was pretty relatively popular. Oh, man. Super Smash TV.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
pretty good game. You were very obsessed with it last night.
Yeah. I mean, I'd buy that for $1. It's the basis of the not Terminator. His name's Arnold Schwarzenegger movie,
Total Recall?
No, the one where he's on a game show killing people.
I
don't know.
Guts?
No, he gets wrongly accused and they throw him in this game show. Running Man?
Yes.
Yep, there it is.
Ryan also said he played a ton of Kirby Superstar and Zombies Ate My Neighbors at my after-school extended care. Good times. Zombies was challenging AF, but a ton of fun. Never played Zombies Ate My Neighbors, I don't think. Maybe
I'm
I
fairly
dabbled.
certain they just remastered it.
Yeah?
And put it on the Switch.
Okay.
Let's make it happen.
And Kirby, just the king of weird games. A million games, mini games. He's eating cars these days. Good for him. Kip said, I was a Sega kid, so I didn't have a Super Nintendo, but my friend Eric did. We used to have so much fun playing Mega Man Soccer after school. Was that game good? Kip, I can confirm it sucks. It was cool at the time, though. Plus, I mean, you're Mega Man playing soccer, so that's exciting in its own right, but...
Is that why you can do it in 9?
No, and you're thinking of 8, where you drop the soccer ball?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was in 8. Maybe in 9 as well, but I don't remember a year and a half ago when we did Mega Manuary for the first one, but there is I think it's semi-canon that they all play soccer.
They love it.
It has been a while.
It's the world's #1 sport.
Yeah, even for Reploids. And Kip also said, we loved Maximum Carnage. That red cartridge was sick. Very much agree, even though it wasn't Woody Harrelson at the time.
Oh, God.
Yeah, agreed. I remember the red cartridge. There was another game that had a different colored cartridge as well. Or you could start getting them in...
It might be Killer Instinct might have had a black one.
It was black, or was it... There was a gold one at some point, too, wasn't there?
That's probably Zelda.
I don't know. Did Zelda have a gold Super Nintendo cartridge?
I think so. There was a couple of them, and it was for the fact that all you did was make it a different color. You're like, damn.
Yeah.
That's intense.
I was thinking of Mark Davis, the Fishing Master. Here, let's look up. I'm going to go to fishinggameindex.com. I imagine that's what FG index means. I could be wrong.
Maybe.
We're going to see what it says here. It is fishing games list for all video game consoles. This is the Super Nintendo fishing games. The Super Nintendo had a few great fishing games for it. The two best for the game console are Bassin's Black Bass with Hank Parker and Bassmaster's Classic Pro Edition. I would say Bassin's Black Bass was funner to play and has better graphics. I also love the environments and lakes you get to fish in that game. Bassmaster's Classic Pro Edition is a bit harder to learn how to play, but very rewarding. For a fishing game, it packs tons of depth compared to others. Gear, lure, rod, and even boat upgrades makes this so enjoyable. The other games for Super Nintendo were pretty good also, especially Super Black Bass. All the games are very similar to each other. Might as well play the two best if you have a choice. But Mark Davis is the fishing master. Gameplay style, it's tournaments, catch multi-fish species. Looks really good.
I'm glad this guy let me know.
Guys, there's a whole fishinggamesindex.com. Name a console.
Regular Nintendo, Blue Marlin.
The Nintendo Entertainment System had 2 fishing games released for it. The Blue Marlin and the Black Bass. Both are iconic classics amongst older anglers and fishing game fans.
Yep.
Even with 8-bit pixelated, they spelled pixelated wrong. It felt like real bass fishing, LOL. Even had a boat and different environments to fish. They're both really good, but challenging to learn how to play. Once you give these games a little time, you will notice, even with simpler graphics, they are addicting. Back to the Discord. Stoy from EXPcast says, still to this day my favorite Nintendo system. It had so many bangers that still stand up to this day. Phil E says, I'm a Nintendo kid to this day, and the SNES may be my favorite system. I had a Genesis, but when my friend got an SNES and showed me Super Mario World, I converted quickly. So many great and memorable games. Mario World, Link to the Past, Super Metroid, F-Zero, Donkey Kong Country, I still say it's good, and more. There were plenty of excellent third-party games, but you get a Nintendo console for the Nintendo games. One of my personal favorites that I never hear talked about is Uniracers from Rare. No idea if it holds up, but I had so much fun playing it. I believe that does hold up. I haven't played it, but that is a unicycle racing game. I think there was
What?
Yeah, I think there was legal issues with it as well.
There's not even a person on the unicycle.
No, these are sentient...
Oh, it's not... it's just a unicycle.
These are sentient unicycles.
What?
I've never played this game.
No.
Also, one that I just discovered, I love the name. It's Spanky's Quest.
Spanky's Quest? Is that a little rascal?
It appears you're a monkey traveling around and doing stuff.
Very cool. Mm-hmm. And also from Phil, I've always pronounced it SNES. Never realized people said SNES as a word. Sounds strange to me. And it is. But it's very common in Europe. I listen to a couple podcasts from over there, and they all say SNES. And it's weird to me every time.
I feel like I've said both.
I've never said SNES. That's the first time
if it
ever
was,
in my life.
If they're all capitalized, then I will read the letters. But if it was capital S, lowercase NES, I would
they call it the NES?
Yeah.
Huh.
They do.
Never done that.
Ghostbuster Josh says, loved the SNES. Really liked the Genesis 2, but I was always a Nintendo boy at the time. Donkey Kong Country 2, followed by the OG, are still my favorite games, hands down. Amazing platformers. One of the best soundtracks. He says, Super Mario World is still exquisite. Love Sunset Riders, virtually a spot-on arcade port. Final Fight, Street Fighter ports were good. Killer Instinct, The Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. I still have the console box it came in back when I was a kid. Zombies Ate My Neighbors, Super Metroid, Contra 3, Alien vs. Predator. It did have a huge collection of games and quite a few bad ones. But overall, when it was good, it was great.
Again, I'm just going to go with Chrono Trigger. I don't know how, that game was... they remade it and I bought it on PC.
Lost Vikings was a really good game. Jimmy Houston's Bass Tournament USA. It's probably my 4th favorite fishing game for the Super Nintendo. It is a great one. Jimmy Connor's Pro Tennis Tour, another great celebrity licensed game. Here's the Exertainment Lift Fitness 2-pack. It actually has Speed Racer on there, which is crazy to me.
Do you think you could plug a steering wheel in at that point? Or do you think it's still the bike?
It's still the bike.
That's not as cool.
Yeah, the Super Nintendo was a pretty cool system, and I think it's great.
I agree.
I think it's what... Yeah, I think
it's at least the 15th best.
Yeah, something along those lines. I think it's the defining console, realistically. That was when this, all video games console wars began. It's the original, and I think potentially the best in my eyes.
It has aged well, unlike some consoles.
Correct.
And yeah, play your Super Nintendo. Give it a try. It's pretty dang good. Anything else you want to say, Dom?
That's it.
This has been Hair the Dogcast. We exist because of people like you. Thanks for listening. If you have any questions or thoughts about this episode or anything at all, you can reach out to us on Instagram at HairTheDogcast or on Twitter at HotDogcast. You can also email us at hairthedogcast@gmail.com. Do you want access to a bunch of bonus episodes, our after show, and even an exclusive podcast where we discuss movies and TV, such as the Spider-Man series, where we discuss, is Spider-Verse good? And yes, we decided it's very, very good.
Or is it?
Or is it? Join us on Patreon at patreon.com/HairTheDogcast. Thanks to executive producers Ryan Christie, Nick Tyler Keller, Kip the Killmeister, Brian Ward, and Katie Bone. We're part of the HyperX Podcast Network. Check them out. For more information, go to podcast.hyperx.com. Thanks for coming and joining us today, guys.
You're welcome.
Yeah, joining me. We are the Dogcast.
Yeah, I brought the sex appeal like promised.
Yeah. You can't see him, but he looks like Brad Pitt and Johnny Depp had baby. And that baby was left underground for a while and didn't grow as much hair.
Is that what happens when you're in darkness for too long? You don't grow your hair?
You turn into a blind elf, at least in Skyrim. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yes, thanks for checking us out. We'll be back next week. Bye.
Bye.
Eliminate clutter and embrace the freedom of HyperX wireless gaming gear for PC and console. Power through all the great monthly PlayStation Plus games with the Cloud Stinger Core Wireless for PlayStation. Enjoy lightweight comfort with reliable wireless freedom so you don't miss plot points when you head to the fridge for a beer. High-quality HyperX wireless products can be found at most fine retailers, as well as online at Target, Best Buy, and Amazon, or you can shop for them directly at hyperx.com and hp.com.